Now, so far we've looked at a couple techniques that I hope will speed up your animation process. But those techniques have been for animating single objects. The next thing I wanted to look at was how we can do some assembly line type of animations. There's a lot of conditions where you'll have a lot of things to animate, but you need to do the same thing to them. And that's just like our portfolio here. So let's try out a technique that's going to help for lots of different items. The first thing I'm going to do is set up a place for us to work. We're going to need a layer, so I'll go up to our reflection layer here at the top, and I will click the New Layer button, and we'll have a new layer dropped in right above it. We've got a few more pictures we're going to work with, so let's go ahead and get those and set them up. I'll go over to Library, and we need to animate Tulip, Venice, Vine Wall, and Wood. So I want to select all of those. I can do that by clicking on Tulip, and I'll shift-click on Wood, and there you can see we have them all selected. Now I've got my new layer 6 as the active layer, so I'm just going to grab them all right out of my library window and plop them right onto the stage. Now they're not in the right position, so let's fix that first. They're all still selected, so if you haven't clicked, you can go ahead and do this. Otherwise you'll have to go back and you can probably click on layer 6 to be able to select all the items in the layer. I'm going to go straight over to Align, and I'm going to use my centering tools, just like we did before. I'll center these all up with the horizontal and the vertical, and it'll do them all at once since I have them all selected and I have the 2 stage options still turned on. Now, in order to animate these, we already know that I'm going to need 2 things. I'm going to need them to be movie clips, and I'm going to need them to be in a layer by themselves. So let's handle the layer issue first. First, we need to make sure that we still have all of our photos selected. And once again, I can just do that by clicking on the layer that contains them. That'll select all the contents of my layer. Then we're going to go up to the Modify pull-down menu, and underneath Timeline, we have a fantastic option, Distribute to Layers. This will take all of my items and create a layer for them and put each item on its own layer. Exactly what we need. I'll click on that, and let's take a look at what we've got. We've got 4 brand new layers. They've even been named by the contents of the layers. Remember, these have JPEGs or bitmaps in them. And you can see that my old layer 6 here is empty up at the top. So we can just get rid of layer 6. We don't need that anymore. That was awfully easy. Now, the second one, we don't have any gang command to do, so we're going to have to do this one by one. And that is, I need to make these into movie clips. I can't just select them and hit a movie clip at once because it'll put them all into one single movie clip. So let's just go through them from the top down. I'll click on Wood first. I'll press F8. I'll name it the same as a JPEG, Wood. And we'll leave all the settings the same and just click OK. Now, just so we can work on the next one, I'm going to hide that layer momentarily, and then I can click on the one underneath it. We'll do the same thing. F8. This one is our Vine Wall. I'm not going to change any of the other settings, so I'm just going to use the Return key to press OK. Hide that layer. We've got our Venice picture. F8. We'll name it Venice. Hit Return to hit the OK button. And one more. We'll hide that layer, and we've got the Tulip picture. F8. And, of course, we'll call that Tulip. One last Enter key, and now we have a whole bunch of movie clips. I'll even reveal them all back up again just so we can make sure we're working on them all. Next, let's go ahead and set up our frame spans. We need one for our initial motion tween, one for our end motion tween, and one for our static section in the middle. We saw we can do this in a non-linear fashion, and I'm going to set them up the same way, but I'm just going to do a bunch of layers at once. I'm going to click right here where we want to set up our static tween. I'll click in the top layer, and I can just drag down, and I'll press F6. And now I've set up all those frame spans at one spot. You can do it by shift-clicking as well. Let's try that for the second one. I'm going to go right up to the top. Here it's frame 41. I'll click on the first layer, and then I will shift-click on the bottom layer. So whichever method's convenient for you. Once again, we'll press F6, and we have another frame span ready to go. Notice I could do this on as many layers as you want. Since I already have my selection on all the keyframes starting out this last frame span, we might as well go ahead and set up our finish tween, the one that flies our pictures out to the right. We've applied a preset before, but only to one item at a time. But we can just as easily do it with multiple selections like this, as long as they're set up correctly. We'll go over to our Motion Presets panel. I'm going to choose Fly Out Right, and we'll click Apply. And you can see that all of my tweens got set up right at once. Now, fair warning, this won't work if even one of these layers isn't set up correctly. So if you have multiple items on a layer, or you forgot to make one of them into a movie clip, it'll just alert you that it couldn't complete the process, and you'll have to go figure out which one you left behind. But if you set things up, it goes pretty quickly. Now let's worry about the other tween. I'm just going to click over here on the stage to close that panel for a moment, and we'll take a look at the beginning section. We can almost do the same thing, but remember, when we set this tween up, we actually had to modify the starting point of each animation and pull it out a little bit. But we can take one of the other animations that we created earlier and just make a preset out of it. All I have to do is make sure I select that motion tween, and I've got reflection right here, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that motion tween right there. You can see it got selected on the stage, and I'll go over to my motion presets panel, and let's just create a preset that represents that exact animation. I'll choose Save Selection as Preset. We'll name it Photo Fly In. I'll click OK. And that's been added to our custom presets down here at the bottom. Now, all I have to do is select those keyframes in all the layers. So I'm going to click on the first one, and I'll shift-click on the last one. And let's go use that preset we just made. I'll go over to my Motion Presets panel. There's our photo fly-in. Now remember, we've got all of our photos positioned at the end of the animation. So we don't want to just hit Apply here. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to use the End at Current Location option instead. That sets up all my tweens, and you can see that all the pictures are shown in their starting position with the alpha 0 and off to the left-hand side of the screen. Let me just click to close up my Motion Presets panel, and let's see what we've got. There I can see all of my pictures flying in at once, staying on the screen, and then flying off the other direction. So it looks like we've got all of our animations set up now.